that which is narrated regarding the speech of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Hadith of Zar. The Hadith of Zar. And this is a beautiful and famous Hadith, also known as the Hadith of the 11 women. The background to this Hadith is that Aisha radiallahu anha was sitting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she told him a story about 11 women and what those 11 women said about their husbands. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam commented on that story, and we will see what it is that he said and what it is that Aisha radiallahu anha said. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها أنها قالت جلست 11 امرأة فتعاهدن وتعاقدن أن لا يكتمن من أخبار أزواجهن شيئا. 11 women sat together and they made a promise and an oath that they would not conceal anything about the news or about their husbands and what their husbands used to be like and what their husbands used to do. فقالت الأولى, the first of the women said, زوجي لحم جمل غث على رأس جبل وعر لا سهل فيرتقى ولا سمين فينتقل. She said, the first of them, my husband is like the meat of a lean camel at the top of a tall mountain. And the meaning of the meat of a lean camel is that he is of no real benefit. The camel is so thin, there's no meat on it anyway, and the meat in it has no nutritional value. Like a malnourished camel on the top of a tall mountain. لا سهل فيرتقى ولا سمين فينتقل. Neither is he easy to reach so that you can go up to him, nor is there enough fat on the meat for people to actually make an effort to go out there. So it was described as being of very hard to reach and being of very little benefit. Like a malnourished camel, like the meat of a malnourished camel on the top of a tall mountain, it is not easy to reach him, nor is there really any benefit in doing so. قالت الثانية زوجي لا أثير أثره إني أخاف ألا أذره إن أذكره أذكر عجره وبجره. The second one, she said, as for my husband, I will not tell you anything about him. I fear that if I begin speaking, I will not leave him. And I'm not going to even stop. If I start telling you the problems this man has and the problems I have with him, I won't leave anything except that I will mention it. If I mention something to you, I'm going to mention عجره وبجره, every little fault and defect in him. So she was a woman who knew of all of her husband's little faults, and she was able to pick them out. She said, I'm not going to tell you anything about him, because if I start telling you about him, I fear that I'm never going to stop, or I'm not going to leave out anything from what I'm going to tell you. And if I start telling you about him, I'm going to tell you about every tiny flaw and defect. قالت الثالثة زوجي العشنق إن أنطق أطلق وإن أسكت أعلق. The third one, she said, my husband is al-ashannaq. He's tall and wiry and of a bad appearance. Yani ashannaq is someone who is tall and very, very thin, but it contains a criticism that he's tall and wiry, very thin, very tall, very like not of a nice appearance. In antiq utallaq, if I speak a word, he will divorce me. Wa in askut uallaq, and if I am silent, he will just keep me hanging and not treat me as a wife. And he was a man that if she were to speak a word, he would divorce her. And if she were to be silent, he would leave her without treating her as a wife, just leave her hanging, neither as a wife nor divorcing her. قالت الرابعة زوجي كليل تهامة لا حر ولا قر لا مخافة ولا سامة. The fourth one said, my husband is like the nights of Tihama. It's said that Tihama refers to Makkah and the area around it, but in any case it is a place. And she explains what is unique about this place. لا حر ولا قر. There is no heat in it, nor is there any cold. ولا مخافة ولا سامة. And there is no fear for me, nor am I discontent. The scholars differed over this fourth lady as to whether she was criticizing her husband or not. So some of them said she was praising her husband, saying that he's neither hot nor cold, and I don't fear him and I'm not discontented. And some of them said she was criticizing that there's nothing in him, he's bland. He's neither hot nor cold. He's just in the middle. And I'm not particularly worried, I don't fear him. I'm not discontent, I'm happy that he is just basically in the middle, neither this nor that. قالت الخامسة زوجي إن دخل فهد وإن خرج أسد ولا يسأل عما أحد. The fifth one said, my husband, when he comes in the house is like a leopard, and when he goes out of the house is like a lion, and he does not ask about what is in the house. The scholars again differed over whether this is praise or not. Some of the scholars said this is praise. And the meaning of he is like a leopard, the scholars differed over this. Some said that he's seeking intimacy with his wife, he jumps upon his wife like a leopard. And others of the scholars said the leopard is the one who sleeps all the time in the house. And the lion is the one who behaves like a lion when he is out of the house and does not ask about what has been done in the house in his absence. It is said because of his generosity. If we look at it as praise, he behaves with his wife like a leopard. He's playful with her and he is passionate in his relationship with his wife. And when he leaves the house, he is brave like a lion, and he is so honorable and noble with his guests and with his family that he doesn't ask about what they've done in his absence. And some of the scholars said this is criticism. And the meaning of he is like a leopard is that he doesn't care about what goes on in the house. He's just asleep, he only cares about what he gets. He just sleeps and then he sees his wife and then he goes out. When he's out, he's so brave and noble, and yet when he's in the house, he doesn't really do any good and he doesn't really ask about what is going on in the house. So the scholars differed over some of these as to whether they are in praise or in criticism. And you can read both of them into it. Because she said, my husband is like, when he goes in the house is like a leopard, and out of the house is like a lion, and he doesn't ask about what has been agreed or what has been used up within the house. So you can see that in a positive way, or you can see it in a negative way. The sixth one said, زوجي إن أكل لفة وإن شرب اشتفة وإن اضطجع التفة ولا يولج الكف ليعلم البثة. When he eats to his full. He eats so there is nothing left for anyone else. وإن شرب اشتفة. And when he drinks so that nothing is left. وإن اضطجع التفة. And when he goes to sleep, he wraps himself in his blanket and turns away from me. He doesn't pay me any attention. وَلَا يُولِجُ الْكَفَّ لِيَعْلَمَ الْبَثَّ. And he doesn't extend his hand to know how I am. Some of the scholars say he doesn't extend his hand to put his arm around me to ask about how I am or to find out how I am. So this is a man who eats all of the food, drinks all of the drink, lies away from his wife, wrapped up in clothes, doesn't want anything to do with her, and he doesn't ever extend his hand to put his arm around his wife to find out how she is doing. قالت السابعة زوجي عيايا أو قالت غيايا طبقا كل داء له داء شجك أو فلك أو جمع كلا لك. The seventh one, she said, my husband is weak and foolish. And there are lots of meanings of this ayaya. One of them is that he does not do what his family needs. Or ghayaya, i.e. he is a person of foolishness and misguidance. And another meaning of ayaya is a weakness. So he is weak and foolish and he doesn't do what his family needs. Tabaqa, some of the scholars said that tabaqa means that he is unable to speak or unable to satisfy the needs of his wife. Kullu da'in lahu da'. Everything that is wrong with people is wrong with him. Shajjaki aw fallaki aw jama'a kullan laki. He may injure your head or injure your body, or he may well do both. So this was one of the most scathing criticisms of all of the 11 women, is the 7th. That he is a wrongdoer, or that he is weak and foolish, that he does no good, that he doesn't take care of his family, that he's unable to speak or unable to see to the needs of his family, that every fault that is present in someone is present in him, and he either harms your head, or he harms your body, or he harms both. قالت الثامنة زوجي المس مس أرنب والريح ريح زرنب. The 8th one say, and you notice that all of these descriptions rhyme with one another. And they're really beautiful descriptions in Arabic. She said, my husband is soft to the touch like a rabbit, and his smell is like zarnab, which is a sweet smelling grass. So he's soft to the touch and has a nice smell. And that is a praiseworthy one, which I think there's no disagreement on, that this one is praising her husband. قالت التاسعة زوجي رفيع العماد طويل النجاد عظيم الرماد قريب البيت من الناد. The 9th one said, my husband is رفيع العماد. His pillars are tall. And the meaning of imad are the pillars that the house is built upon. But what is meant here is his noble lineage and his honorable family. That he is from a long, tall lineage like a pillar. Tawilun nijat. That his strap for carrying his sword is long. And the meaning of his strap for carrying his sword is long is an indication of his bravery and his power and the fact that he is a person of honor and dignity. Azimur Ramad, that his ashes are spread everywhere, and this is an indication of his generosity, that everywhere has a leftover piece of his generosity, and that his bayt, his house, is near to the one who calls upon him. Anyone who needs help, he will find his house to be near. So this is a lot of praise. She praised him for his lineage, she praised him for his bravery, she praised him for the fact that he is noble and generous to others and helps other people out, and that anyone who needs his help will find his house to be near in order to consult him. قالت العاشرة, the 10th one said, زوجي مالك وما مالك مالك خير من ذلك. She said, my husband is Malik, i.e. his name is Malik. وما مالك, and who is Malik? مالك خير من ذلك. Malik is better than anything that any one of you have said. له إبل كثيرات المبارك قليلات المسارح. He has camels, many of them that are ready at home waiting to be slaughtered for his guests. He has them ready at home waiting to be slaughtered for his guests because of his generosity. Few of them are put out to pasture because he has so many guests and he is so generous to them that he slaughters his camels for them. إِذَا سَمِعْنَا صَوْتَ الْمِزْهَرِ أَيْقَنَّ أَنَّهُنَّ هَوَالِكَ. When they hear the sound of the mizhar, i.e. the sound of a particular instrument, they know that they are going to be slaughtered. I.e. they know when this sound comes that there are guests and he's going to slaughter his camels to feed his guests. So this is more praise than any of the other women have given. She said, what is Malik? Malik is better than everything any one of you have said. He has many, many camels ready at home for his guests. He doesn't have so many of them put out to pasture because he has so many guests and he treats them so honorably that he slaughters them for them. And if they hear a certain instrument, the sound of it, perhaps something like a flute, then they know that they are going to be slaughtered out of his generosity for his guests. قالت الحادية عشر. The 11th woman said, and this is where we get to the end of the story. The 11th woman said, زوجي أبو زر وما أبو زر. My husband is Abu Zar. And how will you know who is Abu Zar? It said that she gave him the kunya Abu Zar, which means the father of the pasture, because of the many pastures that he owned or the many children that he had. Because the word pasture can be used for children and it can be used for pasture of farmland. So she called him Abu Zar either because of the large pasture that he had or because of the many children that he had. Anasa min huliyin udhunay. He covered my ears with jewelry. It was very generous to her. He covered her ears with jewelry. وَمَلَأَ مِنْ شَحْمٍ عَضُضَيْ. And he has filled my arms with fat, i.e. he has given me a lot of food and given me such a good and easy lifestyle that I have put on weight from the ease that he has made for me. وَبَجَّحَنِي فَبَجَّحْتُ إِلَيَّ نَفْسِي. And he made me so happy that I became completely content with myself. وَجَدَنِي فِي أَهْلِ غُنَيْمَةٍ بِشَقٍّ. He found me in a family with very little cattle, a very small number of cattle. Bishaq, it said that Shaq may be the place where he found her, or Bishaq bimashaqqa, and in a state of extreme poverty and difficulty. فَجَعَلَنِي فِي أَهْلِ صَهِيلٍ وَأَطَيْتٍ وَدَائِسٍ وَمُنَقٍّ. And he brought me to a family of honor, having camels and horses and living a life of luxury. فَعِنْدَهُ أَقُولُ فَلَا أُقَبِّحْ وَأَرْقُدُ فَأَتَصَبَّحْ فَأَتَقَمَّحْ. She said, whatever I say, he does not rebuke me or insult me. And when I sleep until the late morning. And when I drink water or milk, I drink until I am full. The mother of Abu Zar. And what may one say in praise of the mother of Abu Zar? Her saddlebags were always full of provision and her house was spacious. As for the son of Abu Zar, what may one say of the son of Abu Zar? His bed was as narrow as an unsheathed sword, and the arm of a kid satisfies his hunger, i.e. he was strong and he was satisfied with the food that he had. As for the daughter of Abu Zar, she is obedient to her father and her mother. She has a fat, well-built body that arouses the jealousy of her husband's other wife. As for the slave girl of Abu Zar, what can we say about the slave girl of Abu Zar? She does not uncover our secrets but keeps them, and does not waste our provisions, and does not leave the rubbish scattered everywhere in the house. The 11th lady added, one day it so happened that Abu Zar went out at the time when the milk was being milked from the animals, and he saw a woman who had 2 sons like 2 leopards playing with her chest. On seeing her, he divorced me and married her. Thereafter I married a noble man who used to ride a fast, tireless horse and keep a spear in his hand. He gave me many things and a pair of every kind of livestock, and said, eat of this, O Zar, and give provision to your relatives. She added, yet all of those things which my second husband gave me could not fill even the smallest utensil of Abu Zar. Aisha radiallahu anha said, فَقَالَ لِي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ كُنْتُ لَكِ كَأَبِي زَرْعٍ لِأُمِّ زَرْ. The Prophet ﷺ said to Aisha, I am to you as Abu Zar is to Zar. In another narration, except that I would not divorce you. And in another narration, it is mentioned that Aisha replied, rather you are better to me than Abu Zar was to Zar. Whatever is said about Abu Zar, then there's no doubt that the way the Prophet ﷺ lived with his wives was better than all of that. And really this is just to emphasize the excellent characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ as a husband, and the way that he used to be with Aisha radiallahu anha. And also we should not forget that Al-Imam al-Tirmidhi, Abu Isa rahimahullah ta'ala, mentions this hadith in the topic of the speech of the Prophet ﷺ. I.e., even though this hadith, all of it is mentioned by Aisha radiallahu anha, except the very, very end of the hadith. What do you see? You see that the Prophet ﷺ listened to Aisha, sat with Aisha, spoke with her, conversed with her, listened to her tell about the different husbands. And then he said that I am to you like Abu Zar is to Zar, except that I will not divorce you. And in some wordings it is mentioned that Aisha said, rather you are better to me than Abu Zar was to Zar.